Ahmed Imam Abdul.
Yes, thank you for giving me the space to talk. I want to say mine is just a form of contribution to the discourse. My take is this. The issue of coup d'etat in African continent is from between 2015 and 2017, as rightly said, as captured by the presenter. Mine is that in as much as institutions are not functioning, we continue to have these undemocratic takeover of government serially in the continent. And I say this because when we have a democratically elected government in place and the military is coming to take over such a democratically elected government, where subsequently the coup d'etat faced off, and another government comes in, another democratically elected government takes over from the military. Maybe the military had allowed a democratic rule to happen in the country, and subsequently the democratically elected government would not have the temerity or the powers to prosecute those actors, the military actors that participated in the undemocratic takeover of government in that country. And when you have ex-military head of states, walking around, the country, the globe, no country that has prosecuted any of this infraction, any of this democratic infraction in the continent. So it is a business as usual. The military can just come in, bashing anytime, and take over a democratically elected government without any consequences. So if the institutions are working, the judiciary, the legislatures are working, and laws are put in place. And when I mean laws are put in place, laws that are workable, institutions that are workable, then we will nip in the bud this serial coup d'etat that is occurring in the continent. Except we'll have the AU and the municipal laws in countries in the continent. The countries in the continent have laws put in place to bar a coup and undemocratic government to come in place. We will continue to have this serial undemocratic takeover of government in the continent, where when there is no consequence for their actions.
Summarize your intervention in just 30 seconds. So let's have, yes, there is a lady here.
My name is Yvonne Kendi from Leicester University. Addressing Priscilla, she said coup advances democracy. The principle of democracy is that power derives from the people, right? But most coups represent the will of the minority, especially military driven. So how is that? Please expound.
Let's have one person, and then our presenters will say something about what has been said here.
My name is Dr. Abdulatif Adeyema, Dean of Law, IUIU, Uganda, Islamic University in Uganda. My question goes to Professor Asubike when he was talking about the theory of illegal to legal or whatever. So the question is, are we allowed to use illegal means of fighting of our human rights?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So our presenters, please use a few minutes to make your submissions or your responses. to what has been said here. Professor Azubike, I hope you are online. If Professor Azubike is not in position to say something now, we can have Priscilla in the interest of time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Organizer. But you know, I didn't really get the question that was posed to me. Would you just give me like what was the question about? There's a second contributor who asked specifically a question towards me so that I can respond together with other comments that I have.
Priscilla, I think I'm sorry if I'm misrepresenting, but I think the question that was asked from there was that you said that coups are democratic. And the issue is how democratic are they if they represent the views of a minority, particularly if they are the views of the military in this instance. So that was a question presented to you. But also, if you can please just project better, we are not also hearing you very clearly when you speak.
Now the microphone, Mr. Derek, is on. We are hearing, it's making a lot of noise. So, but I really didn't get the question, but my point is to say the coups, they are also perceived to advance democracy, especially those coups that are targeting to remove the long-serving presidents who do not want to go out, who do not want to surrender powers. You know, in most countries, African countries, some leaders will even go on and amend the constitution so that they can have the third term, the fifth term, and some would even go on and increase the age limit. So they'll just eventually die in power. There will be no age limit. So if a coup is organized for that purpose, then at least it had saved a democratic purpose. But the challenge will be when now the military or the coup plotters have removed the president and not hand over the power to the civilian, or do not now uphold the democratic principles like having elections in the specified time and yes, and compromising elections as well. So at the end of the day, you realize that the unconstitutional change of government, which are perceived to be advancing democracy, at the end of the day, they also fight it. They also obscure democracy and hinder the democracy itself. And some, they'll even change the democratic institutions. That was my point. But also I wanted to comment to the last contributor who spoke about the African Union and the coups. Because now the inefficiency of African Union to deal with coups is actually hinged on the African Union in the composition itself. Because who is African Union? Who constitutes African Union? African Union is constituted by those leaders, the same leaders that probably took power through some, unconstitutional means, or those that are long-serving. So their decisions and their regulations becomes kind of weak because they do not really want to fight themselves. Now you realize that even Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they have actually first removed themselves from the ECOWAS because they do not want to align with democratic principles. And at the end of the day, those leaders, they're also part of African Union. So it really becomes a problem, and you are still far from really having democratic government. So that's why I was saying, in those unconstitutional governments, then the African Union must first of all try to fight for women political participation, because they will not go as soon as we would anticipate and say, okay, we're going to have this fair playing ground and then that's when we will include women.